There's something unsettling about silent people. Not the quiet ones who are simply shy, but the ones who watch, who listen, who say almost nothing, yet somehow see everything. They sit in rooms full of noise and become invisible, not because they have nothing to say, but because they've learned something the rest of us haven't. Silence is power. You think they're harmless. You think they're passive. But what if silence isn't emptiness? What if it's containment? Most silent people weren't born that way. They were made. At some point, they learned that speaking had consequences. Maybe they were ignored. Maybe they were judged, or worse, punished for expressing themselves. So they adapted. They realized something dangerous. The less you reveal, the less people can use against you. And slowly, they stopped talking. Not because they had nothing inside, but because they had too much. Thoughts, observations, emotions, all locked behind a calm, unreadable face. Silent people are rarely disconnected. In fact, they're often the most aware person in the room. While others talk, they collect data. Every tone shift, every fake smile, every contradiction. They don't interrupt. They don't react. They store. And over time, they build a psychological map of everyone around them. Who lies? Who pretends? Who hides insecurity behind confidence? They don't need to ask questions, because people reveal everything when they think no one is paying attention. Here's what most people get wrong. Silence doesn't mean calm. Inside many silent people, there is chaos, unspoken anger, unprocessed pain, thoughts they could never safely express. But instead of exploding outward, it turns inward, becoming overthinking, becoming detachment, becoming emotional distance. They don't react easily, not because they don't feel, but because they've trained themselves to contain it. And containment can look like control. Silent people don't trust easily, not because they're paranoid, but because they've seen patterns others ignore. They notice how quickly people switch sides, how easily loyalty disappears, how words rarely match actions. So they test people quietly. They observe consistency. They wait, and until someone proves they're safe, they remain closed. Because once a silent person opens up, they don't do it halfway, and they know the cost of trusting the wrong person. Society labels them cold, arrogant, boring, mysterious. But these labels are just projections. People are uncomfortable with what they can't read, and silent people, they are hard to read. No constant validation, no emotional oversharing, no need to fill every silence. And that makes others uneasy, because when someone doesn't speak, you're forced to face your own thoughts. Here's the truth no one talks about. Silent people often hold the most power in social dynamics, because power isn't always loud, it's controlled. When you speak less, your words carry more weight. When you reveal less, you become unpredictable. And unpredictability creates influence. People start wondering, what are they thinking? Do they know something? Are they judging me? And just like that, the silent person controls the psychological space without saying a word. So what are silent people hiding? Not one thing, but layers. They're hiding the things they've seen but never spoke about, the emotions they had to suppress to survive, the thoughts that don't fit into normal conversations, the versions of themselves the world never allowed to exist. Sometimes they're hiding pain. Sometimes they're hiding intelligence. And sometimes they're hiding a side of themselves they know the world isn't ready to handle. The most dangerous thing about silent people is not what they say, it's what they choose not to say. Because silence isn't absence, it's selection. They hear everything, they see everything, and they decide what deserves a response. So next time you meet someone who barely speaks, don't assume they're empty. don't assume they're weak, because behind that silence, there could be a mind that has already figured you out and chose not to tell you.